The Me Too movement have turned a lot of people off in this country. And now, and I did this story before, but I'm starting to see it crop up again, where men are now trying to avoid women on jobs because they said it's more trouble than it's worth. They would rather just talk to and deal with other men because, with women, you just don't know how they're going to react. So it looks like Mike Pence is quite a trendsetter. The U.S. vice president famously refused to have dinner alone with any woman who isn't his wife. And now working men across corporate America appears to be following his lead. A new study due to the published in the journal Organization Dynamics has found that following the hashtag MeToo movement, men are significantly more reluctant to interact with their female colleagues. A few highlights from the research include 27% of the men avoid one on one meetings with female coworkers. Yep, that's right. Almost a third of men are terrified to be alone in a room with a woman. 21% of the men say they would be reluctant to hire a woman for a job that would require close interaction, such as business travel. 19% of men would be reluctant to hire an attractive woman. The data above was collected in early 2019 from workers across a wide range of industries. Researchers had asked the same question in early 2018, just as hashtag MeToo was in full swing. And depressingly, things appear to have gotten worse. In 2018, for example, 15% of men said they would be more reluctant to hire women for jobs that require close interpersonal interactions with women, compared with 21% in 2019. It is not just men who are afraid of women, by the way. Women also appear to be increasingly wary of hiring women. In 2018 survey results found that more than 10% of men and women said they expected to be less willing than before to hire attractive women. Internalized misogyny is is a bitch is wow. Internalized misogyny really is a bitch. Wow. I mean, I knew about the men, but I was not expecting them to say women. But that's pretty jacked up. So if you get interviewed by a woman and that woman size you up, well, you're more attractive than me and I can't hire you. Mm-mm-mm. There's been a lot of talk about gray areas in hashtag Me Too. All this harassment business is very difficult for men, we're told, because nobody even knows what sexual harassment is anymore. Men are afraid to even shake a woman's hand in case she thinks it's harassment. Easier to just avoid contact altogether. What's really interesting about the study, however, is that it thoroughly debunks the argument that men are confused about what constitutes unacceptable behavior. The very first thing researchers did was look at 19 behaviors. Emailing sexual jokes to a subordinate, for example, and getting people to classify it as harassment or not. Surprise, surprise, both genders basically agreed on what harassment entails. Most men know that sexual harassment is, and most women know what it is. Leanne Atwater, a professor at the University of Houston and one of the study's authors, told the Harvard Business Review the idea that men don't know their behavior is bad and that women are making a mountain out of a molehill is largely untrue. If anything, women are more lenient in defining harassment. So there you go. Most men are perfectly aware of differences in a friendly hug and a creepy hug. There are perfectly they are perfectly aware of what constitute harassment and what doesn't, which makes you wonder why so many men are afraid to interact with women at work. Well, to be honest with you, I kind of understand. I remember I was really good friends with this guy on the job, and he was pretty straightforward and he was pretty no nonsense. He just spoke his mind and put it all out there. Well, there was a woman in the office that hated him. She hated him. Well, they decided to have a meeting and try to hash out their differences and see if they could just move forward and move beyond everything. After the meeting was over, she went and filed sexual harassment complaints against him. And I remember he came in my office and he was like, "I didn't touch that woman." And he said, "And I never spoke sexually to her, but this is what she did." So then HR had to get involved at that point, and they had determined that he didn't do anything to her after they investigated it. But that's what she did. I will never forget that. Because he spoke to me about the whole thing when it was going on. Because he was like, "I didn't touch that woman." This was one of the few, he was a white guy, y'all. He was Italian, but he was one of the few men that I got along with that's like him. He just had a different spirit about himself. But I remember he was coming, he was like, "I didn't touch that woman." And he was married, and I think he had about 4 children. And they just didn't get along. But this is what she did. This is what she did. And this was a woman that looked just like him that did this to him. And it was a big thing. I mean, it was like a big deal in the office. But I didn't put his stuff out there because I didn't think it was that important to put it out there. But I remember that specifically. So women do things like that. They'll get upset with a man, even if that man has not touched them or done anything wrong to them. They will go and report sexual harassment on them at a drop of a hat, almost as much as they scream rape, y'all, and nothing happened to them. It's the same thing with sexual harassment on the job. Women use it as a weapon. So I just remember that one incident in my office, and I remember that. And I never saw him really go near her except for the times when they had to interact, but I used to hear their arguments in the office. He would go over to her because he would need certain things in order to do his job, and I would hear their loud arguments. So that was interesting. Okay. Um, it's worth noting, I think, that the Harvard Business Review article previewing the study of 2019 results is headline in the hashtag #MeToo backlash. You see that phrase a lot? Yeah, you sure do. I see it all over the internet, that hashtag #MeToo. And, there are a lot of people that think they have gone way too far. They've gone way too far. And Tarana Burke really should not have opened the floodgates for all of these women to come in. I think a lot of them should not be there at all. She originally wanted this to be for minority women, women that were poor to be in Me Too. But now you got all these celebrities and all these big names. It just ruined the whole thing. And it's a shame that she could not gain control over it. I don't really think she cares at this point, because she sure don't show that she cares that it has gone in a whole different direction, and pretty much got ripped off by white women. I mean, let's be real. That's what happened to Me Too. It got ripped off by a bunch of white women. And now they are the faces of Me Too. And the founder of it, they just kind of pushed her in the background. Isn't that what always happens? Yeah, that always happens. That's why a lot of people don't want to include a lot of people, because they don't come to work side by side with you. They come to hijack and take it over. And because of that, that's why a lot of women like me, when I was in my office, we had a women's group, and the women's group would meet once a month. I stopped going. Because the only ones that were gaining in the group were the women in the office that were white. Any of the other women that were non-white, we were just sitting there stagnant in our jobs, and they were getting all the benefits and the raises and the promotions and everything. And it was like, no, I ain't coming to that group. It doesn't benefit me to come to your group. So I stopped going. And initially, they got mad at me because I would not join in their group. But as time went on, many other women stopped going. Okay, they stopped going too. You know, I don't see the purpose in going to a meeting and I'm just seeing one group of women gaining and everybody else is just sitting there with the same position, same job, same salary, and nothing is moving. No, I'm not going to come there and boost you all up while I'm sitting all stagnant. No. No, that ain't happening. But yeah, it was funny. A lot of other women eventually saw my point and they stopped going too. So ultimately, the group started getting smaller and smaller, but they continued to have the meetings, but they didn't have the big crowd of women that they once had. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.